we are giving Sharpen away for free to any tutor who wants to use it. All we ask in return is a bit of feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? I thought, this is brilliant. I'm definitely going to do more of this. So I fell into acting after that. But when I got into university, my parents said, that's lovely. However, would you mind getting a degree first? Zoom was never built for education. Zoom was built for meetings. Sharpen's just a much more powerful platform because we've designed it for learning in mind. And that's when the penny dropped, that I could take methodology from learning lines for acting and I could apply it to the way that we learn. And that was the genesis of Sharpen.
Thank you, Aidan. We'll see you next week. Welcome to the Qualified Tutor Podcast. I'm your host, Ludo Miller, and I'll be interviewing tutors and thought leaders from across the tutoring landscape to inspire, inform, and motivate you to become the best tutor you can be. The Qualified Tutor community is a safe and supportive space for tutors who love to learn and grow. We offer training, resources, ideas, and a chance to connect with like-minded tutors. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join our Qualified Tutor community at www.qualifiedtutorcommunity.org or find it in the show notes. Welcome, everybody, to the Qualified Tutor Podcast. Today, I'm very delighted to be welcoming onto the podcast Aidan Whittock, founder of Sharpen. Now, for those who have been on our community, for those who have been following Qualified Tutor at all in the past month, in fact, you'll have seen that Qualified Tutor and Sharpen have come together several times to explore the platform that Aidan has created and to try and find a partnership for Qualified Tutor tutors to get on to Sharpen, start using the platform and really build its customer base. So Sharpen, I could explain Sharpen here, but it would be secondary to the explanation that Aidan could provide. But really, Aidan, I'd like to say welcome, and I can't wait to explore more of the platform.
Thanks, Ludo. Thank you very much for having me. Hello to everyone from Qualified Tutor.
I first met Aidan back in late last year on one of the various tutoring communities, Facebook communities that there are, the wonderful communities that there are, and since then we've met several times. Aidan, we'd love to start with your background, and eventually we'll move into where Sharpen came from and what goals and targets you've set for 2021. But really, we'd love to know where you've come from, where your background's been, and how you've got to where we are today.
Sure. I think just in a nutshell, for anybody who doesn't know what Sharpen is, so we know where the end of the journey is. Sharpen is a smart note-taking tool. Essentially, the research showed us that when somebody walked out of a lesson or a tutorial, they were remembering only 5 to 10% of it, and we thought that was archaic. So how can we use technology to increase that number? And Sharpen was born. So that's the end. Where did it begin? I'm South African. But I went to school in England. My parents didn't like me very much, so they sent me to boarding school very far away. And I said, "You, child, go at least 24 hours away from home." I said, "Do I have a choice?" "No, you don't. Go away." "Okay, fine." So I got shipped off to boarding school in the UK, where they promptly beat the South African accent out of me and replaced it with a proper English one, for which I am eternally grateful, which was lovely. So I was at school here, and then I moved back to South Africa for university. So I went to the University of Cape Town. I actually wanted to be an actor. So when I was younger, I had a stammer. So I found speaking incredibly difficult. And when I was about 13, 14, my dad said to me, he said, "Aidan, whatever your fears are, just face them." I thought, okay, that sounds like very wise advice out of the back of a magazine somewhere. Thanks, Dad. I'll go do that. I do actually get on very well with my dad. They don't actually hate me. And so the scariest place for me was to be on stage. So I got myself a one-line role in a school play. And that one line was, "Yes, it's over there." Very complicated line, that.
I imagine that's played back in your head thousands of times since.
Thousands of times. I still have nightmares about it, standing in the wings of the theatre, about to go on, and I don't know what the line is. So I remember rehearsing it for 3 months, rehearsing that one line.
Yeah, no one's ever said it better.
No one has ever said it better except the guy who did it after me. And so off I went, and I walked on stage and I did the line, and the audience cracked up, but they weren't laughing at me. They were laughing with me, because my line was the punchline of the whole gag. I thought, this is amazing. This is like kryptonite in terms of the impact, not the fact that it flattens Superman. I thought, this is brilliant. I'm definitely going to do more of this. So I fell into acting after that. But when I got into university, my parents said, "That's lovely. However, would you mind getting a degree first?" So I thought, okay, fine. All right. So I ended up getting a degree in social anthropology and environmental and geographical science, which meant by the end of my undergraduate.
Yeah, that's longer than the first line you ever said on stage, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah. It took me 3 years of my undergraduate to be able to say the name of my degree. And by the end of those 3 years, I now realized I was totally unemployable.
Yeah.
So I went, great. Okay, what am I going to do now? So I did a postgraduate, and I now realize I should probably do something, that will give me a skill set that I can sell. So I went into the business faculty because I always enjoyed being an entrepreneur. And but I didn't really realize it. So when I was at boarding school, I used to make money by hustling and selling things to my fellow boarding school students. I lived in Singapore with my parents. My dad was a pilot, and I was at boarding school in the UK. And at that time, the price of Oakley sunglasses wasn't regulated globally. So I could pick up genuine Oakleys in Singapore for cheaper than the UK. So as a 13, 14-year-old, I was buying 10, 15, 20 pairs of Oakley sunglasses and smuggling them into the UK. And it turns out at Heathrow, nobody checks a 14-year-old, which was great. So that was my first business. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I always enjoyed finding an idea and just running with it. So I did a postgraduate in entrepreneurship through the business faculty. Now I was employable. Great. I then got hired by SAB, South African Breweries, which is the second biggest beer manufacturer in the world. And I became a sales rep. So I used to sell beer. And after that, I started pursuing ideas. My first proper entrepreneurial venture was, it was vertical access wind turbines. Very cheap. I only needed 100 million pounds to start. And obviously nobody in their right mind would give a 23-year-old 100 million pounds to go and start a renewable energy business. So that failed very promptly. Followed several other ideas, all of which failed to various degrees, but taught me a lot. And that's when I got back into acting, and acting started to take off, and I started doing a lot more TV and a lot more films. I ended up on a show called Homeland, mm-hmm. With old Claire Danes, and I learned a lot from her around acting and around preparing as an actor. And part of what I learned was, how do we ingest lines? How do we memorize lines for a show? And it was that I was prepping for a show called Warrior on Sky, and the writers decided to rewrite the scene that I was doing the following day. So I got 10 pages of new dialogue the day before, and I was absolutely bricking it, going, how am I going to do this? But luckily, I've learned tricks through acting. That means that I can get the 10 pages down and off book in about an hour, which is fine. That's effective enough. And that's not me being smart or anything. That's just the methodology working. And while I was learning these lines, I was being victim of our generation, and I was multitasking, and I was watching Netflix at the same time. And I was watching the Tony Robbins documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, which is fascinating. He himself is a fascinating human being in terms of how do you motivate and how do you teach people. And I was watching this documentary of him doing a week-long conference. He's had 1,500 people paying $5,000 a head for a life-changing experience. Now, when I was at university, I went on a similar week-long experience for students. It certainly wasn't $5,000 a head. And I remember it being a life-changing experience. And I'm still friends with people from that week. And I got really excited watching the documentary. And I went and found my notebook from that week conference that I did. It was buried deep in my basement somewhere. And I pulled it out very excitedly and I opened it up and I went, yay, this is going to be brilliant. I'm going to relive these wonderful experiences. And it just wasn't the same. It fell so flat reading just the scribbles and the shorthand that I'd written. I thought, if I'd paid $5,000 for a week where I'm doing 12 to 14 hours a day, I can't remember all of that, but I know that there is hundreds of gold nuggets buried in that week. I would love to be able to go and revisit that. And that's when the penny dropped, that I could take methodology from learning lines for acting and I could apply it to the way that we learn. And that was the genesis of Sharpen.
Thank you, Aidan. We'll see you next week. There's an amazing story in that, and I think having used Sharpen a handful of times, I am already a huge fan. You know that already, Aidan. But let's take that further then. So how can someone who logs on to Sharpen, creates an account today, how can they use it? What are the key features of Sharpen?
So the core USP, the unique service of Sharpen, the gold of it, the magic sauce, shall we say, is this. Generally, when somebody takes notes, they still handwrite notes. And I'm fairly certain a lot of your listeners right now will be nodding along going, yes, I handwrite notes. And some people are going, no, I take notes in Word or OneNote or Google Drive or, not the Drive, but Google Docs. True, yes, but the majority of people still handwrite notes. Now, if we think about that, that means we do an hour tutorial, for argument's sake. We walk out of that and the student has handwritten stuff. Okay. However, in handwriting it, they're having to listen and learn from you, interpret that into something which they then write down. And hopefully that what they've written down will trigger the learning that they've onboarded in that moment. So that's currently how things work. The reality is they come and revisit their notes a week later, a month later, 3 months later, as they prep for their finals. They pull up what they wrote down and they're looking at a shorthand version of quite a complicated learning experience. The likelihood is it's not going to trigger that much of their long-term memory. So what Sharpen does is this. It pulls all of the information that you were exposed to at the moment of learning, because it's not just what you wrote, it's what you listened to, what you were looking at, what you were reading, what you were discussing, and any supporting material, PDFs, PowerPoints, whatever it might be, tacked onto it. So here's what Sharpen does. You do your tutorial using Sharpen, the whole thing gets recorded, and every time you take a note, Sharpen timestamps that note onto the recording. So when you pull up your notes later, you can click on the timestamp and it'll take you straight back to that exact moment that you wrote the note. So you can re-experience whatever was going on that screen. And you can screen share. So you can screen share documents into it. So let's say you've got a 20-page PowerPoint. Rather than just sending your student the PowerPoint and them going, okay, well, I know that I've got the PowerPoint document, but where did I take the note? On which slide? You don't need to worry about that anymore because it pops up on the screen. You know that, oh, I took this note and slide 3 happens to be up. So I can look at the exact moment of the PowerPoint documents. So that's on the one side of the screen. On the other side of the screen are the notes that everyone else in the session was taking. So you can learn from each other's notes. So you as a tutor, you can see the notes that your tutee is taking. So you can watch how they're learning. How are they interpreting what you're telling them? Are they getting it right? Because they might write something down and you might think, actually, that's completely wrong. That's not what I meant at all. And then all of that, at the end of the session, you hit the export button and Sharpen turns all of those notes into an interactive PDF document. So all of your notes are in one place, attached documents are all there, and each one of them has a timestamp. You click on that and it'll take you straight back into the exact moment of the session for you and for the student.
Yeah. Yeah. And then those PDFs are, do you have to download those immediately? Are they retrievable from your Sharpen account?
Great question. Yep. So they are retrievable from your Sharpen account. All of the sessions are recorded onto the Sharpen servers, so you don't have to worry about hard drive space and all that. Just log in. All the sessions are there. Click on them. There's the video file. Hit the export button. You can add new notes onto the session after the session and re-export the PDF, and it just updates.
And now, a brief word from our founder, Julia Silver.
If you'd like to hear more about the ideas we touch on here, or gain the tools to take your own tutoring to the next level, the qualification for tutors could be for you. This live online seminar is facilitated by industry experts who, over 4 Zoom workshops, will cover the foundations of teaching and learning and how it relates to you as a tutor. The workshops are full of rich discussions where you'll learn alongside other tutors and connect on a professional level. We will teach you how to be the kind of tutor every child remembers. Visit our community space at qualifiedtutorcommunity.org and sign up now for our transformative course. We'll see you there.
I think it's such a valuable, such a rich resource for tutors. The thing with the new platforms is everyone who uses there are myriad platforms at the moment that tutors can use, and every tutor that uses one of the platforms thinks, oh, I wish it had this, this, and this, and then someone else uses another platform and they go, oh, well, I wish it had this, and then everyone wants to sculpt, everyone wants to customize their own platform. And I think that the way that you are building Sharpen with this feedback and the really building it for the users is going to create the most customizable, if you will, platform, because it's going to have all the features that people actually want. And kind of on that same theme, Aidan, what are the features that are the most prominent in your mind? What are the features that are going to be added to the Sharpen kind of system in the coming months?
Great point. Yeah. So we're currently building out a virtual whiteboard. So Sharpen is fairly early stage. We're in the beta phase at the moment. So we are beta testing. And what we've been doing is we are giving Sharpen away for free to any tutor who wants to use it. All we ask in return is a bit of feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? And we'll listen to that. And that's what we have been doing. So we've been taking everyone's feedback and going, great, okay, we can build that. Let's do it. So what we're building right now, we're building a calendar integration. So you'll be able to integrate directly into your calendar. So you can schedule alerts, you can schedule repeats, you can get reminders. The standard functionality that we expect from a calendar will now be built in. And we're building a virtual whiteboard. And we've been listening to tutors and asking, look, what do you like from a virtual whiteboard? What don't you? So the core functionality of the whiteboard to start off with will be the standard stuff. So you can draw, sketch, and grid paper, that sort of stuff. That's fairly standard. What we're focusing on is you're going to be able to drop any document into the whiteboard. So it'll convert any documents into a PDF. You can drop that in, and then both people can then write and annotate onto that document in real time. So you can watch your student engaging with whatever's on that whiteboard in real time.
Yeah, which is a feature of certain other platforms, but not all platforms, and that's really, I think that's the key point. Now, I'm going to ask you perhaps a slightly piercing question now, and I hope I don't overstep the mark. But Aidan, why do you think a tutor, for example, should use Sharpen over Zoom, the kind of the learning functions of Zoom?
Sure. Okay. Great question again. So firstly, Zoom was never built for education. Zoom was built for meetings. COVID blew up and we all needed to go somewhere, and Zoom was there, ready for us. So that was the first thing. Realistically though, why Sharpen over Zoom? Okay, if you record a Zoom call, it'll record onto your hard drive unless you're paying a lot for the top level Zoom package, which will then record onto the server. But the other person doesn't automatically have access to that recording. They then have to request access. You then have to either download that file, compress it, because it's a relatively big file, send it over to them, or upload it to a shared folder somewhere. It's a faff. That's the first thing. The second thing is you can't timestamp notes onto the recording in Zoom. You can use the chat function, which you can then download. Fine, but let's say that you do download that chat function. You've then got a relatively sizable document that is not searchable. You can't attach documents to specific moments, and those notes, those chat comments are not tied to the specific moment of the recording. So in a nutshell, Sharpen's just a much more powerful platform because we've designed it for learning in mind.
Yeah, and that's a key point, I think, for all listeners, is it just as Aidan said there, it's being designed with learning in mind. And as I said before, I apologize if I've repeated myself, I've used it several times, Sharpen, and already it's amazing to hear that Sharpen produces time-stamped recordings, but when you actually have a PDF on your computer that you then click and it takes you to the exact moment in that recording, that is more powerful than something I've ever seen on any other online platform. And
I'm so glad you like it. That's brilliant. Putting a smile on my face.
Yeah, for podcast listeners, you won't be able to see Aidan smile here, but I can. And yeah, I think that's one of the key. That's perhaps the key feature. And if that alone doesn't encourage you to start using the platform, then well, I was going to say then nothing else will, but actually there are a bunch of other features that do. But yeah, so I guess another point is we qualified tutors serve tutors. That's why we exist. We serve educators, we serve teachers and tutors. Why Sharpen could be used for hundreds of different professions. Why have you started with focusing on tutors and coaches?
So it's a great point. Sharpen is fairly early stage, so we can't do everything for everyone out the gate. We have to start somewhere. And you're right. I mean, Sharpen is essentially a way to take notes when we are engaged in something, be it learning, be it a lecture, be it a tutorial, be it a meeting. So it was originally born to help university students because that was a use case that I was thinking about from my personal experience. The reality of that, though, is universities do move quite slowly when it comes to software and tech. And it's a much longer process to get a university on board because they have to make a decision that's going to influence 10 to 20,000 people. So we decided to not focus there first. Tutoring is essentially a closed environment where we can look very closely and very carefully and go, all right, great, let's put this in. We can see exactly the impact that it is having. And the feedback that we have been having is students who usually don't take any notes are already taking more notes just because the functionality is at their disposal. It's a great place to start and to test Sharpen and go, right, this clearly is adding value, which is the feedback that we are getting. And tutoring, because it's a one-on-one environment, the same with coaching. So we can take two people and we can focus in and we can really drill down on that learning experience. And that's why we've started here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all. Yeah. We wouldn't have come into contact anyway, otherwise. But yeah, I see in 2021 as during this time when we enter into what we are now labeling a third lockdown, although it seems that we've lost count.
Yeah, lockdown 73.
Lockdown 73, exactly, is that there is going to be, and with schools closing as well, there's going to be huge uptake again in tutoring, and there will be calls, as there always are and always should be, for tutoring to move away from kind of this elite or expensive status that it currently has, and with that democratizing of tutoring, of bringing the price down as more students require kind of out of classroom support, there has to be a way of mirroring the classroom environment online. And several platforms have attempted it. Some of those platforms have attempted it very successfully. But as you say, with, you can just picture a sixth form class or even a university class where the professor, the teacher is speaking and all the students are typing their notes. And as Aidan mentioned, on the right-hand side of your screen, you have your notes, and on the left-hand side, in the left-hand column, you have everyone else's notes. And you're just dragging across the notes, the comments that other people are posting. That peer-to-peer learning is still incredibly rich, even though you're not sitting in the classroom next to them. I think that's incredibly kind of realistic and you know, a goal that will come to fruition this very year. But are there any other features that you just wanted to kind of to touch on?
Sure. Yeah, well, on that point, you're absolutely right. So Sharpen has two modes. There is a one-to-one mode, so in other words, two people, and then there's the group mode. In the group mode, we can do up to 3,000 people on that call. So that was built for webinars. In that mode, all of the guests don't have videos, so they can see the tutor or the host, but the host can't see them. We are building out more video for that platform, but I mentioned that mode because of what you're saying around the peer-to-peer collaboration. You can see everyone else's notes who choose to share their notes. You can comment on their notes. You can add files to their notes. If somebody's looking for a specific document, they can just ask the community. Now, if we get into that kind of collaborative learning, then we get into something called peer-to-peer revision. And the research shows that when you do peer-to-peer revision, retention goes up to somewhere nearer to 80%. That's really powerful. So why can we not build the largest searchable note database in the world? And that's what Sharpen is looking to do. Because all these notes are searchable. You can filter by them. You can add action items to them. So you can tag your notes as, all right, this is a to-do. So in other words, this is homework for next time. Okay, or this needs clarity, or this is a question. So if a student has a question that they're not sure about, they can post it as a question. You, the tutor, you can filter by question. And you've simply got a list of everything which you need to get through. Great. It's just a way more powerful way of engaging with the outcome of a session. And that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah. I've heard you say that line before, but it really strikes home that the largest searchable note database in the world. I mean, it sounds big. Obviously, it's a big goal, and for a company that started recently, you know, that sounds ambitious. But there aren't other searchable note databases in the world, so you know, it's incredible. Again, very achievable. Yeah, so I just think it's such a podcasting is something that I've massively enjoyed, you know, getting into in the past few years, and I think this way of explaining an idea to someone via this kind of audio medium is really powerful. So I'm very glad that I've heard you explain Sharpen before, both to me and then to the small group of qualified tutor community tutors that we had on to the introductory, the kind of explanatory session that we hosted in December, and we will be hosting more of those via the QT community. We will be encouraging tutors to start using Sharpen. I hopefully, if you've been listening to this podcast so far, you'll have been listening to every word, but let me repeat, Sharpen is currently in, Aidan is offering Sharpen for free at the moment to tutors in exchange for feedback. That's a pretty massive step, considering, as you said, that Aidan Zoom has a free feature, but it's not a particularly useful one. So you have to start paying. Obviously, Teams is expensive. There are lots of platforms out there, and they cost. For the moment, Sharpen is free. So jump on while you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a very rich conversation, Aidan.
Thank you. Yes, it's been great.
I'd like to congratulate you as well for Aidan was engaged over the festive period.
Thank you.
Move into a new house, which is pretty much the busiest festive period I've heard of so far. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, mate. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
As Aidan explains, he lives currently in a sort of a shed in the middle of Sussex. So the fact that he has an incredible internet connection, and B, is able to continue building Sharpen at the same time is pretty inspiring.
Working from home and working online. It's the way of our times now.
Yeah. So Aidan, we'd just like to finish really with a question that we've asked before several times to finish off the conversation. And this one is, we ask it in the scope of education, and although Sharpen is not only for education, but as you have said, it's for capacity will be built in months and years to come for business meetings and legal cases and other areas like that. But if you could wave a wand over the education landscape right now, a magic wand, to change one thing that you would like to change, what would that be? What would the change that you would like to see be in the education landscape, in the tutoring landscape?
Wow, the magic wand question. It's always fun. If I could write one thing, okay. I would like to see more collaboration between tutors. Every single tutor who's freelance out there, which I presume is your whole audience.
Split between agency workers and independent freelance tutors. But right, okay. Yeah, tutors are a small business.
Yeah. Each and every single one of you is an entrepreneur. You're starting and running your own business. You're running all facets of it, which is hard. It's really tough and it's lonely. I run Sharpen by myself, and one of the goals that I have for this year is to have a Sharpen partner. It just makes life so much easier when things get tough to have somebody to soundboard with. And I would love to see more collaboration among the freelancing and entrepreneurial tutors out there, because you're not going to cannibalize off each other. There's enough work out there for everybody, because that stems from your networks and your expertise and what you specialize in. And to see each other see everyone help each other with that. Oh, great. I mean, you get so much more built that way.
Yeah, that is the fundamental ethos of a community, isn't it? Is bringing together like-minded people. And we're very proud to have started that journey, to have built the community. I can see the Sharpen community building as it grows. And if the eventual aim or the eventual objective of Sharpen is to bring together freelancers in this space where they can meet and connect, which always sound like such vague words, but that is what a community does. You meet and you connect. On as I mentioned, on the Facebook community that we met on, Aidan, we have since connected. We have met and we have connected, and I know those words often sound sort of vague and sometimes kind of not perhaps the most tangible. They do ring true, and that's what a community builds. So
completely.
Yeah. Thank you. So I know that you hesitated on that question, but you came up with that's if anyone had a magic wand, that would be a good spell to cast over the sector. Yeah, you're happy with that? Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Yeah, I wanted to give you a considered answer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Aidan, thank you very, very much for joining us. I know you're always very, very happy to jump on a call, and as Aidan often promotes, he's always contactable via WhatsApp to chat about Sharpen, to chat about the features, to chat about how you can grow together. So Aidan is eminently contactable. We will be hosting more sessions exploring Sharpen in a collaborative setting, with 3 or 4 other tutors within the qualified tutor community, but obviously on Sharpen. We will be promoting Sharpen within the community much, much more in 2021. And we are all hoping for the take up in Sharpen for this to be the year.
That would be brilliant. Yeah. And if anybody does want to try the beta, you can sign up on our website and I'll get a notification, and then we'll jump on a one-on-one call and I will show you how to use Sharpen. Easy.
And just to confirm, that's sharpen-app.com.
Sharpen-app.com, A-P-P. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that'll be in the show notes below, and also over our social media and within our community. But Aidan, thank you once again.
Thank you. That was brilliant.
Yeah, thank you for explaining it. I know you probably do that about 20 times a week, but it means you got pretty good at it.
I'm starting to get there.
Okay, very good, Aidan. We'll speak very soon. Thank you once again.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Qualified Tutor Podcast, where tutors share their expertise to support the tutoring community. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join our Qualified Tutor community at www.qualifiedtutor.com. qualifiedtutorcommunity.org, or find it in the show notes below. We exist to connect, share, and learn with you, because tutoring is a small job that makes a big difference.